Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the EcmaScript talk. Um, my name is Shay Friedman. I am a founder and the web division leader in a company named Code Value, where we do consultancy and training and writing code and everything that is software related. Um, let's see you guys. Even though I cannot see part of you, but I will try. How many here are web developers? Yeah, that actually makes sense that you all will be. How many use JavaScript? Well, you're web developers. Never mind. Yeah, you use JavaScript. If you're not using JavaScript, that would be a problem. You're not. Okay, good for you, I think. No, JavaScript is great. I'm kidding. Um, how many of you use some kind of a compiler like Babel or TypeScript or something like that? Okay, cool, nice. And like, how many you need to support like the evergreen browsers, like the latest Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and stuff like that? Yeah, you're like, I hope so. No, IE 10, let's say. Okay, 9. Oh no, 8. 8. Okay, 6. Okay, thank God. Um, okay. So hopefully all of you will be able to support evergreen browsers until you quit. That would be very nice to mankind to do that. Um, cool. So what we're going to talk about today is EcmaScript. And let's start with a bit of an overview, and then we'll dive into the code. As you can see, there are no slides at all. So EcmaScript, what is EcmaScript? First of all, EcmaScript is a standard. It's not a programming language. It's just a standard that JavaScript implements, right? So all the JavaScript engines out there, if it's Chrome, the one in Chrome, the one in Edge, or the one in Firefox, they all implement their own implementation for EcmaScript. Now, EcmaScript is a standard that is decided by a committee. Um, a committee that people are sitting and talking and thinking, oh, that would be good and that would be good, and then everything becomes a standard. There are 4 stages of a feature to become part of the standard, and you have to go through them. And if you fail in one of them, you just you will not make it into the standard. But if you get to stage 4, which is one before the final one, you will actually get into the standard. So if you see something that it says it's in stage 4, you can use it because it will be part of the standard at one day. Now, EcmaScript started, the first version of EcmaScript started in 1997, which is 19 years ago. And we had version 1 on 1997, version 2 on 1998, version 3 on 1999. What an awesome word we had before 2000. And then version 5 in 2009. Now you're thinking, wait, 1, 2, 3, they had like 1 year apart, and then 5, 10 years after, but where's EcmaScript 4? You are right. Where is it? So what happened? What happens when you put a lot of people in a room and they need to decide on a standard? They start arguing, right? And then they have something that is called politics, right? Everybody says, okay, I will say okay to your proposal, and you will say okay to my proposal in return. And then stuff that shouldn't be in the standard get to the standard eventually, and stuff go out of control. And eventually, instead of taking like the humanity step forward, you take yourself a step forward, and that's not why we're here. So what happened with EcmaScript 4 is that it got abandoned because they just couldn't agree on what going to be inside it. But you know who actually created a language that was based on EcmaScript 4? It was ActionScript, the Flash programming language. So, and you could tell that if you base your technology on something that was abundant, probably in one day your technology will be abundant as well, and that's exactly what happened. So EcmaScript 4 is has never been something, and now finally we're at the stage where we are at EcmaScript 6. EcmaScript 6 came out in 2015, in June, last June, and it was changed to EcmaScript 2015. And they did it in because of one reason. They said, okay, we don't want to wait like 15 years between different versions, because think about it, EcmaScript 3 and EcmaScript 6 are 15 years apart. Like, think about how the web looked like 15 years ago. Even Google even has this feature. If we go back here and go to Google, google.com, you can actually write here Google in 1998, and you see Google in 1998, which is kind of nice to see how it looked like almost 15 years ago. And but this would like, I like the present, I don't like that, and I want to be in the present. So why should I write in a programming language that was actually decided on 15 years ago? So what I actually did in EcmaScript 2015, they said, okay, from now on we're going to release a new version every year, a new version of the standard. So we will say it's EcmaScript 2015, 2016, 17, and so on, mostly to put pressure on themselves, I think, and not something for the community. And it actually kind of working, but we'll talk about it in the end, why it's kind of becoming weird with EcmaScript 2016 and what's after that. So this is EcmaScript, and let's just dive into the code and see part of the new features. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go and fix and actually migrate this amazing application that I wrote. If someone want to buy it, you're welcome. Just come to me afterwards. I'll like 1 million, 2 million, something like that. I think it's fair price. So you come here, it's a cashier. So you just write whatever that you need, like milk, and enter, and it gets added, and then you can have bread and beer, and also of course lots of beer, which is also a thing. And this is the application, right? A very, very nice application, very great. Good for you to buy it in 2 million. Anyway, so this is the code, and we're gonna go and migrate it from EcmaScript 5 to EcmaScript 6 and see how it changes. So let's start with this. Yeah, this is big enough, right? Let's open it here as well. So we will have on the right side, we will have EcmaScript 6, and on the left side, we'll have EcmaScript 5. So let's talk about that. So we have this thing here. This is the base class. It's called entity. All the entities in the application have an ID. So this is the base class. And this is the class that inherits from it, called item. And the item has an ID, name, and a price. And in order to do inheritance in JavaScript, we need to do something like that. This is actually not the actual best practice for this, but it's simple enough for that. But this is how you do inheritance in JavaScript, and this is like, you look at that and you see, you're like, what's going on? Who thought about that stuff? It's like they were so drunk to do that, like crazy. Really, it's amazing because people who are not used to look at JavaScript code, because once you get used to it, you're like, oh, that's so pretty. No, it's not. Because people who are not used to look at JavaScript code, they look at this stuff and they're like, oh my god, and start crying and and run out of the room. I was a part of a big application. We migrated from C# to the web, from WinForms to Angular. So we used JavaScript at the beginning, and then there were like at the beginning we had 20 developers who knew C#. They didn't know how to write web applications, and in the first month of the new project, 3 developers quit. Okay, because they look at it and I prefer to jump from the window and not continue doing that. So this is wrong. Okay, this is like, it's okay. It's different syntax, but it's just not for humans. So we want to make it better because we want to change this and we want to change that, for example, just in order to make our life better and make maintainability better. So what we have now, eventually, after 6 versions of this standard, we have classes. So finally, we can just write class entity, and a class would have a constructor like a normal class, and it can have an ID, and this ID, and this is the base class, and this is very nice, very understandable, right? And then I have the item class that I actually want to derive from entity for it, right? So all I need to do is extends entity, and I'm good, right? So let's create a constructor as well here, and we'll get ID, name, and price. And now if I want to call the base class, I don't need to do this weird thing. What is call? Why would I need to put this here? What is this? Where am I? So just super. This is the keyword, and you pass the ID, and that's it. And this is so much better, right? And this is exactly this, but in a human readable way. So this is EcmaScript 6 and this is EcmaScript 5, and it does look much better. So this is the first thing. Let's continue and now fix the inventory class. So let's do this again, and this is the inventory class. It only has like the inventory, all the items here, an array of items, and it have a method named search, and it has a property named total item count that gets the inventory size. Now let's do that. So again, we just use classes. We don't want to use inventory. We don't want to use the functions anymore because it just, when you look at this, you say, oh, a function, but no, it's a class. So in order to just not do that and actually look at the code and understand what it means, we can now just write classes. Let's just copy it here. Now, this is, of course, a method of a class, right? And it goes on the prototype because this is how you should write classes, and because of prototype chaining and all this stuff. But the thing is, and the thing that I think baffles most developers is that they are used to have a class within borders, right? You have the beginning of the curly brackets and the end, and there goes everything. And here, it's outside, like you have the function, which is actually also the declaration of the class or the constructor, and also the constructor. So it's also the name of the class and the constructor, which is kind of weird. And then afterwards you have the search methods, and you can actually do stuff that will put it within borders. But again, it just makes understanding how to write good code in JavaScript much harder. And I teach JavaScript in training, and I see people look at this stuff and they're like, oh no, what have I put myself into? And hopefully this will just decrease the amount of anxiety from writing JavaScript. So right now we have a method of a class, so we can just do search. This is the name, and then write the implementation. So let's just do that and copy it here. So finally, we have methods of class within the class declaration, which is great. Now, in terms of properties, right? You look at this thing here, and you're like, what? It's like we had a conversation yesterday in the party about frogs. do, do you know that in South America and parts of Asia, you find frogs that are poisonous, and people take them and lick them, and then they hallucinate. It's a thing. You can try it if you want, but probably in order to get to that, this is probably what they did. Probably they met in South America, licked some frogs, and decided that this would be a good thing. Like, let's do that. Of course, this makes sense. So, I'm not into drugs, okay? So, but if you want to lick frogs, be my guest. I know some guy. No, I don't know anyone. Um, anyway, now in EcmaScript 6, we actually have properties, like properties that we have getters and setters, and we can actually declare them and use them as human beings and not as frog lickers. So get total item count, this is the name, and what we do, let's do this just so we can see, return this dot inventory dot length, and that's it. That's the entire thing. That, and you can actually read it, and of course you can have a setter as well. And in order to use it, because the difference between getter and setters and just regular method is how you use it. So if you do like new inventory, whatever, var x equals new inventory, so you can do x dot total item count, just use it like this. This will return the value. And if you do this, something, I don't know, equals 5, so it would call the setter, which is now absent, so you will get an exception. But this is how you use getters and setters. So finally, you have a normal way of doing that. So this looks so much better than this part, right? It's just, you can look at that and understand. Now let's look at here. So we have this item.name.index of. It actually says that the item's name starts with something, and it always drove me crazy that you need to have this kind of syntax in order to do starts with. And finally, we have starts with. Okay, so every string now have starts with item name. Okay, finally, it's a small thing, but it goes a long way. It also has ends with, makes sense, includes, so, and repeat. So you can actually have a string and then say repeat 3, and it will repeat 3 times. So if you ever need that. So all of these are new things in EcmaScript 6. Okay, so let's continue to here, to the build function, build class. Okay, so this is the build class. This is where you create new builds, okay, from the inventory. Oh, we're taking pictures. Should I smile? Never mind. Yes. So we have a class build, right? And let's do a constructor. Constructor. 4, and this dot items equals a new array. So this is that. We have add item here, so we can just create a method because the add item is pretty simple. So add item gets an item and does that. Okay. Then we have calculate totals. We just go through the items, add all the prices, create a total price, and then adds tax, and returns an object with total without tax, the tax itself, and the total with the tax. So that's what we do here. So let's create that as well. So calculate totals. This is it, and just copy here and there. So again, just a class, and it looks, just by doing that, looks a bit better. Now we have this thing here, tax percentage, right? And the thing is that tax percentage is a variable, right? But it's a variable, and I don't need it to be a variable. I actually need a constant. But in EcmaScript 5, I don't have constant, so we used var, and we had like these weird things to like freezing objects in order to make them look like vars, but it like const, but it's never like the same thing. It's not really a const. And here, when I can use a const, so finally, 6 versions after we started, we have const. Okay, so we can use const, and we actually cannot change it. Finally, something so trivial. So we can have const. Now, another thing that we finally had in terms of variables. Let me ask you this. I do this, just an example, okay? Var x equals 5 and console log x. Okay, so I declare this here inside, and then I console log the x after the if. How many of you think it would throw an exception? Okay, how many of you think it would write an empty string or undefined? Okay, how many of you think it would write 5? Okay, so it's amazing that you can actually go a lifetime without knowing this, because you just don't understand that this is what's happening. But JavaScript doesn't have, at least until now, block scope variables. So this would actually print 5. And I was like, what? I don't remember that working. Go try it. It's a nice prank. Like, they were like thinking, how fun that would be, and yeah, that would happen. So this would actually work, because in JavaScript, when you declare something between curly brackets, you are not declaring a new scope, and it works like that in an if and in a for and while. All of these, they do not declare a new variable, which is, of course, unreasonable, irrational, whatever. It's just, what did you think? The only way you could actually create a new scope is in a function. Functions actually create scopes, but blocks like this do not. So finally, in version 6 of the standard, we have a new thing. And whenever that you write something like that, remember that on like one of the first days of Earth, God said, "Let there be light," right? So think about it and said, let there be a variable inside the scope. This is what you need to think. And finally, it's only inside the scope and not outside. So now when you do console.log x, after the if, it would throw an exception or write undefined. I actually don't know, but it doesn't matter. That's finally just inside here. So finally, we have that. So actually, you don't need var anymore. Just use let. Just when you really need var, use var, but let is the new cool thing. So, let's talk about this. So we have this .items.forEach. It was also a method that was added in EcmaScript 5. And it's a weird thing because, you know, JavaScript has like a gazillion amount of loops that you can use, right? You have for, you have while, you have do while, you have for each, you have for in, which people mistake for each, but it's not. And then they said in EcmaScript 6, okay, we don't have enough. Let's add another one. So they did. Um, they did, but eventually that actually this is probably going to be the most popular one that you're going to use, and it's called for off. For off is exactly that for each that you've been waiting for. But you know what the problem with this thing? You just cannot break out of the loop. If you want to stop the loop, you just cannot do this. You can use other for each implementations of different libraries that allow you to do that, but in the implementation from the standard, you just cannot break out of the loop. So in for off, it's much better. So you can do for let item in, not in, off, this dot items, and this is just a for each loop. So the item would be in every iteration the actual item and not the index or something like that. And let's just do that. So again, this is nicer than that, more understandable. We can get rid of that and be fine. So for off also a new thing. Now let's continue to the UI class, and it's, I know the code looks like I don't know, don't want to say the word, but it's UI every time. I decided not to go with like a framework here, so I just use jQuery, and it looks like it. Okay, what can I do? But it's pretty simple. So we have this UI class, so let's also create it, and we have a constructor. The constructor actually just have just has this inventory and the build classes here. It has an item to add, which is when you write the name of the item and it finds it for you. When you click add, it will use this item to add the actual object and not the string. And these are all the elements on the page, so I can use them during the code, inside the code, and subscribe to events, which we'll just create. So let's create this, subscribe to events, and let's take it from here. Okay, so let's look at that. So subscribe to events is a method that has all the events, right? Key up, click, and all this stuff. So let's look at the first line here, which is this. Now, this is probably the most popular bug in human history, because someone who was probably very drunk or very high decided that this in JavaScript will not be the this that you're used to have in other languages like Java or .NET or whatever. This is not the current context. This is actually the thing that started the callback. So if you're inside of a class and you're calling functions, methods of the class, this who started the call? The class itself. So you get this as you're supposed to. But in something like that, which is an event handler, inside here, this will not be the class itself, right? It will be the probably the input element that started this key up even. What? This is why I don't have hair. This is it. Now, really, it's, I think I've done this mistake like a million times, and I've been working with this stuff for like 15 years, and it's, I still can't get it to get into my mind. And people call this thing, because this is a workaround, right? You save this before and then use it inside, and then it's okay. So people call this self and that and me, and I call it really, like what? So I think they understood that there is a problem. So they took care of that in EcmaScript 6. And instead, I just deleted that. Okay, I don't want to see it anymore. And instead of function, we now have something that is called fat arrow function. What is it? So fat arrow functions are anonymous functions, just like this one. This one is just an anonymous function. It doesn't have a name, but they are just written in a different syntax. So it's not function. It's like this and a fat arrow. And this is all that has changed. But the very interesting thing here is that now this is actually going to be the context that you're expecting, the context of the class, and not the actual item that started the call. So thanks to the guys there that finally understood that there was a problem. So let's just go ahead and change everything here from self to this, and do replace all, and replaced it, and voila, we're done. Just remember that this is how you should do that, because if you use the regular function, it won't work, right? The regular function still works as it used to. So this is the way, and this is how you should write all your callbacks now, because this will just prevent, you will not have this bug anymore. This is it. You don't need to remember, wait, I did this self thing or I didn't. Just do this, and you will be safe with it. Okay, now let's look here. Now this is this thing here is also something, it's kind of a practice that people use in order to have like multi-line strings, right? Because JavaScript doesn't have multi-line strings, and I don't like this. It's a workaround, and it's just one of a million workarounds that we need to know when we write JavaScript. But now in Exponentiation we have something that does that. We have multi-line strings with string interpolation. So we can have inside the string, we don't need to stop the string and do plus and value plus another string plus whatever. We have string interpolation. So let's see that. So instead of all this array of strings, I can use to declare the string a back quote, which is the key left to the one key. Okay, so it's a back quote, and we do that. And back quote now supports multi-line strings and also the string interpolation. So let's remove all this stuff from here that we don't need anymore. This and that, and it clears up a lot of the not really needed code that you used to write. So we have that here. Okay, so it looks just immediately looks better. But now we have this thing here that we want to have the actual value and not the string. So you can have this syntax here, and this means replace this thing with the value of this item to add.name, which is awesome. And also we can do this here. This has $2 just because this is the actual value and this is the actual $sign that will be presented. So again, we have what's called string interpolation and multi-line strings, all with the backtick finally. Now we have this as well. Remember calculate totals? Calculate totals returns an object that has total without tax, tax, and total. Now it's okay to return a value like this, a complex value, and then get it and then use it in different places. But in EcmaScript 6, we have something that is called the structuring assignment that does this. So I'm writing like something like this, and let's say total without tax, comma tax, comma total. And now what's going to happen? Let's clear that. So calculate totals return an object with 3 items. So the first item will go here, second here, and the third here. And it works on objects and arrays as well. So you can have that and then put the objects, the different values inside different variables. which sometimes makes sense, and it used to be kind of uh, I don't know, not very nice syntax. So finally we have this as well. So this is kind of cool. Now, if you saw before, you see here, let's just try to add another thing. I don't know, milk. It actually works nice, but you see here, it doesn't actually has the sign, the currency sign, and it doesn't work according to the current format of the country. So I do want to fix that. And until EcmaScript 6, we had internationalization support in different libraries, right? And now, finally, we have internationalization support from the browser natively. So we can use a formatter. So var f equals new internationalization called number format, and then we give it the actual format. So let's say it's here it's LV, all right? And then I say, okay, I want here style of currency. It's not just going to be a number format, it's currency format. And the actual currency that we use is euros. Okay, so this is the internationalization formatter for the current location. And now what I need to do is f.format here and just put it right there. And this will take care of what we needed. So again, internationalization support out of the browser. So after we fixed all of this stuff, let's just see if that actually works on the browser. So what I'm gonna do, we have that here, and this is the HTML code. It's just Bootstrap and nothing fancy. But let's remove this. These are all the EcmaScript 5 files, and this is the EcmaScript 6 files. And let's see if that actually works, if I didn't make any mistake. So hopefully this would still work. So this actually works, and when I click edit ads, and you can see it here that this is the internationalization thing. And let's do, I don't know, lots of beer, and I want a Porsche as well. I also always wanted one. So it actually works, and I guess this is how you do numbers here. So it's nice, and it works, and it works out of the browser, which is like, what? Nice. So let's talk about that. So what we have done here, just look at how EcmaScript 6 can make your code look like. So this is actually we can't actually fix that too much, but look at just the actual code of this. So let's just close this and here. So look, it actually looks like code, right? People, even if they're not in the JavaScript world and they're not JavaScript ninjas and they don't do JavaScript all day long, they can see that and say, okay, I understand what it does. I can do something with it. And they can look at this thing, right? They can look at this thing and say, okay, I understand this inherits from that. That makes sense. It makes the code so much nicer that just amazing. Anyway, so what I wanted to show you more. So what we saw up until now is I have a list here. So we saw classes, right? So we have classes in EcmaScript 6. Let's do this. So we have classes and we have inheritance. Now, something that you need to know about the classes, even though they look different from the prototype chaining and all this stuff, it's all still prototype chaining. It's just syntactic sugar. But you don't need to care about that too much. You just need to know how it works. We also saw properties, the getters and setters, which works pretty nice. The string method that we have starts with and ends with and includes and repeat, and finally we have all this stuff that we used to use from third-party libraries, and we had to like figure out which one is the best and stuff. Why? It's all because JavaScript wasn't good enough. We saw const and let finally. For off, which is also great, going to be very popular. Fat arrow functions that you should definitely use right away. String interpolation, which is pretty sweet. Destructuring assignment, which is nice when you need it. Assign, it's hard, okay. And internationalization support, which is also very nice. Now, we didn't see some more stuff. So what do we have more in EcmaScript 6? We have something that's called generators, which is pretty nice. It allows you with the word yield, if you familiar with that from other languages, it just allows you to lazy load lists, which is pretty nice, and can really improve performance if you're doing like algorithms and stuff like that. So you don't need to create the entire list before you do something else. You have a proxy class, which is pretty nice. I actually waited for this because I used to do Ruby, and Ruby has the method missing function, if you're familiar with that. So proxy is kind of like that. You can get calls to this proxy class, and you will get every call that goes to a non-existing method will get to a specific method that you have in the class, and then you can do stuff with it, which is pretty cool. Another thing that is still in the works in terms of different browsers is import and export. Something that we didn't actually fix here is that irritating efi, which is this, right? The function that calls itself and the namespace. This is the best practice. It's how you should write JavaScript. Because what the efi does, the efi is immediately invoked function execution. Yes, I think. So what it does, because it's just a function that calls itself, so it doesn't really it's not really used as a function, but what it actually does, it creates a scope. So everything that you create inside this function is actually accessible just inside this function. This is why we wrap the entire file with it, so we don't put stuff on the global scope. So this is still not working on browsers. Sorry, this works on browsers, but import and export still doesn't work. But this should fix this, because import and export says every file has its own scope, and if you want to export it, so you use the export keyword. If you want to use something from another file, you use the import. Very similar to other languages that do the same thing. And I think that when this gets into the browsers, this would probably change a lot of the ways we write today and fix a lot of the problems that we have, and also break the entire internet. So we'll see how that goes, because everybody works in this global scope today. We also have a thing called promise. And you know, there are like a gazillion amount of implementations of promise object. So now we have it inside the like natively supported a promise object. and we can use that. So it's great. So this actually makes a few of the libraries kind of redundant, like the third-party libraries kind of obsolete, so we don't need them anymore, which is good, right? It's good. You don't want to use something that is not written natively on the machine, because if you use something that is written natively on the machine, it works better. And I want my application to be better. So this is what we want to do. So there are more. You should definitely look it up. What's coming? Because this is EcmaScript 6, EcmaScript 2015. What is coming in EcmaScript 2016? So EcmaScript 7 or 2016. What is coming? So remember I told you that they now release a new EcmaScript standard every year, which means that they need to actually sit together and decide what is going into the standard every year. And they have a deadline every year, so if you don't make it until this deadline, you're not into the version of this year. So EcmaScript 2016 got 2 new features. 2. That's it. Which are like, the first one is like exponentiation. So you can do this, which is exactly like doing this. Okay, this is the first thing. Amazing. And the second one is array dot includes. So you can say 1, 2, 3, and includes 2, and it says like true. That's it. That's EcmaScript 7, which is going to change the world, right? I kid you not. This is it. But the thing is, okay, it is like, okay, so you said it's going to be every year, but what? So yes, but what they say that if you get to stage 4 in the proposals, then it's gonna get into the next version. So let me just give you a glimpse of what's coming, what's gonna be in probably EcmaScript 8 or 2017 or maybe 9 or whatever. So vNext, let's call it. So these are the just very cool things. So we have async and await. So we can say, instead of doing promises, we can say this is an asynchronous function and then await for it in some code. So you can do that instead of doing promises all in everywhere and then have like this I indented code because you do a callback inside a callback inside a callback. So probably that would help with that. We also should have sometime array comprehensions. I think you write it like this, which is very similar to what you have, what's called list comprehensions in Python. And in Python, it's a big thing, so probably it would be something like this here as well. It's something that you just write mapping from an array to another array, but in a very nice syntax. So it would be something like for x of ARR, something like that, and for each of those, do, I don't know, x by 2 or something like that. So this, you will write something like that, and you will get an array of all the x's, but they're all multiplied by 2. So this also. And we will also have something that's called Decorators, which is also pretty nice. And this can actually create a massive change in how you write JavaScript code, because at least in other languages, they call it attributes or stuff like that. Something that called AOP came around. It's called aspect-oriented programming, which kind of changes how you write code. So think about this. This is the UI, right? So we have this key up here. So we have a function, a callback function that we subscribe to the key up and then run it. So once we have decorators, we can do something like that. So we have on key up function, okay, and do whatever that we want here, right? But in order to register it to specific event, we can do something like this. On key up and say, I don't know, this would go for item name, whatever. So this is decorators, right? You will say, okay, this thing here goes on key up event or something like that. I don't know, let's call it key up, whatever. And this might change how you write code in JavaScript, how you think about how to write code, and it's going to be very, very interesting. So this is what's coming, and I don't know when it's going to come, but it's coming. Let's talk about support, right? Support in browsers. So we have this thing here. I know it looks like what, but it's the best site for this, really. Just if you look for EcmaScript compatibility or something like that in Google, you get here, and you can see how much support for EcmaScript 6, FIX 6 version next, internationalization, and all this stuff are supported by different browsers. So I'm using here for this presentation, I used Chrome Canary that I updated this morning. So it's version 51 from Chrome, and as you can see here, the current browser supports 97% of EcmaScript 6, which is kind of nice. But EcmaScript Chrome 48 is the one that everybody uses, and it's, I think, 70 something percent, if I'm not mistaken. So it's getting there, but of course it's also only the evergreen browser. So if you do need to support older browsers, and we talked about it at the beginning, so some of you definitely need to do that, you go and use a compiler or transpiler, whatever that's called. So Babel is probably the best one in terms of compiling JavaScript to JavaScript. This is the site, babeljs.io. Okay, if you're into that, just look for Babel.js if you want that. And what Babel does, you write in EcmaScript 6, and even it supports some of EcmaScript 7 and even some stuff afterwards. You write like that, and then you tell it, okay, compile it to EcmaScript 5, or some of, if you have most of your code can actually be compiled to EcmaScript free as well, if you need to support that. So you can actually use the EcmaScript as it is, the new EcmaScript, and then just just compile it, and then your users will never know that you write in like the new version. They will feel the quality is better, but that's about it. So definitely go and check out Babel. And I don't recommend you to actually write EcmaScript 6 and just put it on the browser. It probably won't work for 90% of your user. But definitely go here and look at if it supported or not supported, what's supported, because there's stuff that I didn't show you. And if you look here at the left, you can, I don't know, open it, and you can actually look at some code, so you can see what that actually means, and you can just learn everything just from here. So this is really a nice site, even though it looks scary. So yeah, so just to summarize, EcmaScript 6 is the version we have been waiting for. Okay, finally, we don't need to be ninjas and learn JavaScript all day long just to write like the hello world application and learn best practices, all this stuff. It's just there. You just use it as a regular language, The great thing about EcmaScript 6, in my opinion, is that it removes the barrier of entrance, because people actually saw JavaScript and said, oh, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm going. And I hope that this will actually bring people into this world. And most of us, because JavaScript has won, right? JavaScript just runs everywhere. It runs on your phone, on your laptop, and on your refrigerator at home, which is why, but well, you need it probably. So it runs everywhere, and you need to write JavaScript everywhere, and you need to write good code, because this is what we do. We write code all day. So why won't we have the best languages, the best tools in order to do that? So finally, EcmaScript 6 is the thing that we've been waiting for, at least in my opinion. And I can't see why not use it today with Babel, of course, or TypeScript if you're into that. But use it, because why hold yourself from doing that and write just better code? So we have, I think, do we? Yeah, we have 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes. Do you have any questions? Yes. Angular. Angular is the best. Yeah. Uh, I've been writing Angular for a long time, and I've been using this with Babel and also TypeScript, and it just works perfect. So definitely go for it. And even Angular 2 needs the decorators there and stuff like that if you using TypeScript. So definitely use it. Can't see why not. Yeah. More questions? Yes, up there.
So hi, you have shown pretty much cool stuff, and they are supported by almost all modern browsers. And what do you think? Will CoffeeScript die soon?
Will JavaScript die soon?
No, not JavaScript, CoffeeScript.
Ah, CoffeeScript. CoffeeScript. No, no, definitely not, because as I told, CoffeeScript will have to do whatever that it's needed to support all of this cool stuff and add it. If it's not there yet, they will have to add that to CoffeeScript. But I am positive that no one of the and millions, not thousand, millions of programming languages that compile to JavaScript will disappear soon. It's just not going to happen, because this is, I showed, it definitely agree this is cool stuff, but it still doesn't work on the browsers. So you will have to have something that compiles it. So CoffeeScript, TypeScript, Babel, all this stuff will stay for a long, long time. Because just this is because of the users, not because of us, right? The users, they are stuck with Internet Explorer 10 and 9 and God forbid 6. So we have to support them, and this is where it will stay, at least in my opinion. Yeah, something more? Yeah, right there.
Thanks. What about object.observe?
Oh, Object Observe, that was fun. Object Observe was supposed to be a very cool thing, and they said it would make everything work faster, and then it was dropped. So it's not part of the standard anymore. It's dead. Sorry. More question? Yes, one here.
Is there any performance difference in using classes and functions?
No, there is no performance difference, because it's all syncretic sugar. So when you write a class, it's actually behind the scenes, it's the same thing, exact same thing like you wrote a function. So you don't gain any performance or you don't lose any performance. It's the same, exact same thing. Everything behind the scenes is the same. So yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Great question. The question was for off. Is it faster than for each? So it's for each and for off, inclusive from what I saw in benchmarks, are about the same thing. The fastest one still is for with if you cache the the maximum object, and the slowest one ever, like never use it, is for in. If you think that for in is like for each and use for in everywhere, just know that you're probably losing 10 times. Like it's probably 10 times slower than if you wrote it in for off or for each or whatever. So stop doing that. Okay, for in is not for that. It's for reflection, and that's what it's for. So for off is about the same as for each. So we don't have any more time. So please use it. Don't hold yourself back from the future. The future is right here. Go and use it. Thank you very much.